going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video, and in today's video we're going to be talking about the Lego movie. So I'm going to start this off a little differently than I usually do with my videos and just ask you guys right out of the gate to hit that like button. It really helps the channel out, and I definitely want to get more people coming over here to the channel. The algorithm has not been my biggest friend, so please hit that like button if you guys can. Also, comment your thoughts throughout the video or at some point in the video would really help the channel out as well. And if you're brand new here to the channel, please consider clicking that subscribe button. I got tons of stuff here on the channel: movie reviews, TV reviews, vlogs, supercut videos, and so many other things coming, live streams and all that jazz. So please consider hitting that subscribe button. And a big thanks to my guest from this video, Rashad G, from his channel Rashad G Reviews. You guys can find the link to his channel down below in the description box. Go give him some love, let him know I sent you. We'll be hearing from him in just a little bit, but for now let's go ahead and get into my initial thoughts on the Lego movie. I also want to start this off by giving you guys some context as far as me and Lego. As a kid, I had some Lego sets, I had some Lego figurines, but I was never a big Lego collector or Lego builder. I just never really had the patience, and I still really don't. The idea of sitting there and like having to read the schematic and be super specific about every single piece never really excited me when I was younger, so I just never really connected with the Lego world. Though I should mention, I actually have quite a fascination for people who do that and watching people do it in videos, streams, whatever the case may be. So I have a lot of respect for the Lego game, but I'm not really, much of somebody who gets into the Legos themselves. But speaking of actual Lego games, I am a huge fan of the Lego video game series. Starting with Lego Star Wars, which was my introduction to those games, I have played every single Lego game that has come out, minus maybe 2 or 3. Even Lego Rock Band, Lego Star Wars, Lego Indiana Jones, Lego DC, Lego Marvel, Lego Batman 2, whatever the case may be. There's so many of them at this point, whether they're based on the movies or they're based on various properties. I really enjoy those games, so that's always something I've really been able to connect to when it comes to Lego. And so yeah, watching this movie was something I was pretty excited to check out when it first came out, and I remember I missed it in theaters. I never got to check it out in theaters, and one day when my girlfriend and I, or now my fiance and I were drinking, we decided to watch this movie, and I've seen it a million times since sober, and what I can say is I really love this movie. I think it's one of the best animated films of all time, quite frankly, and I think it's one of the better family films that I've ever seen. I think it's a movie that very much earns the title of being a family film, because there's some films in the family genre that are far more for the younger audience. They're safe for the family, but they're far more for the younger audience. And this is a movie that I think does a good job of being for the younger audience, having that general message that's there for the younger audience and the fun visuals and the whimsical story, but also has a lot of really great messages for parents and adults, and has tons of Easter eggs and references to various properties and different things that I feel young kids really just won't catch on to because they're put in there for adults. So I think this movie very much earns its title as a family film, because I think anybody of any age can watch this movie and enjoy it. I thoroughly do believe that. This is also the kind of movie where, like, I've said, hey, you guys want to watch the Lego movie to a couple of my friends before, and they're like, sure, the Lego movie, and then I put it on and they're laughing. This is just one of those movies that kind of just brings people together, and I really thoroughly enjoy this movie. I've seen it dozens of times, and I honestly never get tired of it. There was a period of time that it was my nighttime movie where my fiance and I would just kind of throw it on the TV right before we went to bed, and we would do it night after night after night for a good chunk of time. I don't even really know how many times I watched it, and a lot of times it was just kind of like, maybe watching 20 or 30 minutes before I fell asleep, but sometimes I would watch the whole thing because I wasn't sleepy. I was just sitting there kind of on my phone but still watching, and then I would kind of just restart it. It's just kind of one of those movies for me, and I never really get bored of watching it. So I've seen it plenty of times, and my general thoughts are I really love it. I find it to be a good fun time that's really funny, very cleverly written, and has beautiful animation that actually makes these Lego pieces look like real Lego pieces. You can even see the fingerprints on these Lego pieces as if there's something that's really being played with, and we'll get into that in just one moment. But now that I've given my general thoughts, we're going to go ahead and switch gears real quick and go ahead and hear what Rashad G had to say about this movie, and then we'll get back into my overall thoughts on this movie.
Perez, what's the deal? Pickles, is everything kosher? So our tit for tat saga continues. This time you got me watching the Lego movie, and I'm glad you picked this one out for me because this is one of my favorite animated joints. I absolutely love this movie. I saw this when it first dropped. I took my 7-year-old to watch it. Damn, I think she was 7 at the time. I forgot my own daughter's age. But yeah, I took my daughter to see this when she was small. And with most kids' movies I take my daughter to go see, I'm like, well, I'm taking it really for her. And I might enjoy it a little bit. But how is it that I enjoyed this shit better than she did? I'm sitting there laughing from beginning to end. This movie is funny as hell, and now rewatching it again 7 years later, do I got that right? 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. Yeah, I had to count on my fingers. Fast forward to watching this again 7 years later. I watched it with my daughter again. This time she's a little older. She's about my damn height. And we're both sitting there laughing. This movie is hysterical. It's funny. Just the little things that happen here. Like, there's so many, like, just quick little moments that make you laugh. There's so many Easter eggs. Like, if you blink, you'll miss it. Even in the slow moments where they're talking, the dialogue is so good where it doesn't matter. You're just having a good time watching even when they're talking. And it almost felt kind of Toy Story-ish because you're seeing these toys come to life. Growing up, I had Legos. I'm sure many of you had Legos. And you see your toys come to life and playing and stuff. And so it almost felt like Toy Story watching this. But, I mean, it's a bold statement to say that this is better than Toy Story. Well, this is definitely not better than the best Toy Story, but if I put this up against the weakest Toy Story, which is Toy Story 4, I would say this is definitely better than that one. There's also a message in this movie about being stagnant and complacent and just being comfortable where you are and not broadening your horizons and going out there and seeing the world. You know, it's like, man, break out of that shit, get out of your comfort zone and go fucking live. You know, the character Emmett, he's just in his everyday routine doing the same shit. You know, everything is awesome and you're living out your dream. I bet you never expected that to come out of me, did you? So yeah, the message of, you know, living and just breaking out of your comfort zone, I like that. I like how these kids' movies drop a lot of jewels in there, a lot of nuggets in there to adults, you know what I'm saying, as well as the kids. So you get a lot out of this. Yeah, man, what can I say? I love this movie. The animation was on point, the pacing, the adventures, you know, this is something that kids can enjoy, that adults can enjoy, and I think adults will probably enjoy it more because we'll get more of the jokes as opposed to kids. You know, kids are stupid, they don't know any better. But, you know, if you pick up every joke in this movie, it is hilarious, and they happen so fast. So, yeah, wrapping this up, man, I'm going to give the Lego Movie an A+, easily one of my favorites. And not to mention Will Ferrell is in here. Come on, man. Will Ferrell, I believe, is a very underrated comedic actor, probably because he's got some stinkers that people want to forget about. But Will Ferrell is hilarious, even when he's being serious, when he's not trying to be funny. Okay, so yeah, other than that, man, A+ is what I got for this. Perez, thank you for putting me on to this. I'm gonna give the floor back to you. What you got, bro?
A big thanks to Rashad for being here in this video. Loved hearing your thoughts, man, and I'm glad to hear that you're a big fan of this. When I sent this movie to you, I wasn't too sure if you were going to really love this movie. I was definitely curious, but you have really just kind of proven for me that this is a movie that I think works for everybody. Because I know that sometimes certain family films I've sent you have not been your favorite, but I think that this is a movie that really does work for everybody. So to see that it really works for you, I think just kind of proves the point for me that this is a movie that I think really can work for most people. Yeah, overall, I really enjoy this film. I totally agree with what you're saying. It's funny, it's clever. There's little moments that if you blink, you'll miss it. And I really enjoy the way that it's able to be something like that where you can rewatch it and kind of catch on to little moments here and there. But beyond that, it's got a really great story with various messages in there. Definitely some very on-the-nose messages at times, but definitely some very subtle messaging at times. And if you're a fan of so many pop culture properties, there's so many moments and references for those different things in here. There's a great Star Wars moment in here as well. And I just really enjoy the way they were able to jam-pack that all in here. This film is directed by Phil Lord and Chris Miller, who I think did an incredible job directing this film. They've gone on to become very well-known names in the film world, and I think that the things that they work on tend to be pretty clever and fun to watch, and this is definitely no different. The story centers on Emmett, played by Chris Pratt, and yeah, you know, he's just this everyday guy who just kind of goes with the rhythm. He wears what everybody wears, he listens to what everybody listens to, he goes to work and follows all the rules and follows everything to a T, and it kind of just led him to be this very bland and boring guy. And there's definitely a big message in this film about not conforming to what everybody says you should do, not conforming to what you should be, what you should look like, what you should sound like, what you should listen to, anything like that. And I think that this movie really hones in on that in a really creative and fun way, and uses the Lego element of building things and creating to really solidify the point that they're trying to make about you, you know, finding this unique element about yourself, finding what makes you special, finding what makes you an individual in a world filled with other people who are their own individuals, who have their own special abilities, their own special things that make them unique. I think this movie really hones in on that very, very well, and I really do enjoy Chris Pratt in this film. He gives a great voice performance the entire time, and the entire cast is great. Beyond him, you got Morgan Freeman in here, who's pretty funny. You have Will Arnett as Batman, and just so many others. Like, if I sat here and just listed off the cast, there's just so many great people that are in this film, and I think everybody gives a really good voice performance. You know, again, it's silly, it's fun, it's whimsical. There's so many little moments of slapstick humor, but then there's some really clever moments of humor that are just subtle lines of dialogue that I don't think everybody's always going to get, but I think anybody who's maybe a little bit older, maybe more connected to these pop culture references, you'll be able to connect to things a lot more. That's not to say that it doesn't make it accessible for people, but just that the humor is very clever and works on different levels, and there are some things that may go over some people's heads, but can be incredibly clever for others. Like I mentioned before, the animation for this film is phenomenal, and you can literally see the fingerprint on these various characters throughout the course of the film and the various things and specific lighting, and I always thought that was such a cool little nod to kind of throw in there at the idea that this is something that's being played with. These are Legos. And nearing into the last act of the film, we actually get what I thought was a pretty interesting reveal, which is that we find out that this entire story we've been seeing this entire time is being told by a young boy on the outside who's actually playing with these Lego figures. We find out that President Business, the villain of this film, the overlord who's trying to rule all of the Legos, we find out that he is actually just a depiction of his dad, who's played by Will Ferrell in this real world. I remember watching the film for the first time and being pretty surprised to see that this movie was taking place like in a real world. You know, that these were toys being played with, and that there was actually real people telling this story. And we end up finding out that Will Ferrell, you know, his dad is this guy who is a huge Lego collector, and he never lets his son play with the Legos, and he's very strict, and he has these rules, and his son just wants to play. His son just wants to have a good time. He wants to play with his dad, and his dad just wants things to be a very specific way. And that's when we end up getting the character of President Business, the villain of the film, who is embodied by his dad. You know, he is his dad. And being able to see him kind of realize the way he's been as a father, and you know what his son just kind of wants to do, you know, the fun that these Legos bring to his son's life. I really enjoyed that element because, again, there's a great message in there, a general message for everybody about finding what makes you special, about you being able to be special even when you don't feel like you're special. It's about finding what makes you unique and being open and happy about that. But beyond it, I think there's a message in there for parents about being too rigid, for sticking your kids into this bubble of what they should and shouldn't be. You know what I mean? And I think that this movie does a really good job of having that balance of great themes and messages for people of all ages that maybe when you're younger you won't be able to catch on to that, but as you get older, and especially if you're an adult and you have kids now, you may be able to relate to those things a little bit more. And I think that kids who are watching this movie today and growing up with it will be able to connect to it far more by the time they get further into their life. So I think this is a movie with a lot of layers. It's fun, it's really well animated, it's silly, it's got a great song, everything is awesome, very catchy song in there. Again, visually enticing, tons of little great Easter eggs, references, great voice cast, and a great voice performances throughout. A great story that's big and fantastical and silly, tons of little great moments of humor, some big, very silly slapstick moments, but some very cleverly written moments that are either done with body humor, which of course it's Lego body humor, or in just very subtle lines of dialogue. I think this is an incredibly clever movie with a lot of really great moments, and I do highly recommend it. So again, a big thanks to Rashad for being here in this video. You guys can find the link to his channel down below in the description box. Go give him some love and let him know I sent you. And if you guys enjoyed this video, please do consider hitting that like button, subscribing, and commenting your thoughts on both this video and the movie in and of itself. So I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.